The Federal and Velevin Hypermarket jointly present the Thuthukudi Marathon 2024 to raise awareness on drug abuse. The event is co-presented by Edison Cardio Care Center, Tiruchendur, powered by L. Anand Jewelry and St. Mother Teresa Engineering College, Thuthukudi.
Hello and a warm welcome to Federal's special program, Capital Beat. Short seller Hindenburg has come out with its second sensational report, and this was last evening, where it has made claims that Securities and Exchange Board of India Chief Madhuri Buch was an investor in offshore entities and that her husband, Dhaval Buch, as a quid pro quo, was appointed as advisor in firms like Blackstone. Now, Adani Group and the BJP leaders like Sudhanshu Trivedi, like Rajiv Chandrasekhar, they have come out and they have called out this report as malicious. They've called it mischievous with an intent to destabilize the Indian stock market. Opposition, in the meanwhile, has demanded a joint parliamentary probe on this and also has appealed to the Supreme Court to take a suo moto cognizance into this expose. Now, the big questions, what we will look at over the next half hour or 40 minutes. Number one, how credible are the claims of the Hindenburg report? That is point number one. Point number two, what will be the political fallout? And third, can Supreme Court take suo moto cognizance into this expose? And overall, if you look at the report, does it not undermine the credibility of an institution like SEBI? We'll find out answers to all of this. Joining me now is Arun Agarwal, who is the Supreme Court lawyer. He's also an investor activist. So thank you so much for joining. We have Giri Prakash, business editor at the Federal. Giri, thank you so much for joining. We have Himanshu Bayani, who was associated with CNBC earlier. Now he's an independent business journalist. Thank you so much for joining. And let me begin with Himanshu, who's just joined in. Himanshu, what are the big takeaways from this particular expose which has come out last evening? Many people say that it lacks substance, but is more of sensationalism. What would you say to this?
I think when I deciphered the whole document of this Hindenburg saga, on the Adani, the latest thing, what I divided was largely into a couple of pieces. And when I see this, it's morely about the money tripping and the shell company structure which the Adani Group has used. Then you see if there is a backgrounder on the IIFL, mainly, and there is Madhabi Buch and Dhaval Buch connection, and how, Agora Partners has been one of the companies which has been instrumental in this all, and how Dhaval's professional journey, which was nowhere, which has scaled up to that level, and the Blackstone dealings, those are in the question basically in this document. But largely what comes out of all this is that when the SEBI chairperson came to the office, before that, whatever funds the couple had invested into through Global Dynamic Funds, this Bermuda-based shell company, which was again, pumping the funds into Mauritius-based funds, ID Plus, which was again formed by IIFL. This whole process, when she joined as a chairman, before that she transferred it to her husband's thing, saying that he has to do everything. Then a couple of emails were there which were exchanged in 2018 when she was sitting as a whole-time member in SEBI. And by the time, so what all has happened in the Blackstone dealing has happened mainly in that time between 2017 and 2019. And she has advocated these REIT products on several industry conferences and platforms, but she has not investigated the way the thing should have been investigated when the money, the over-invoice money was pumped into one shell company run by operated and held by Vinod Adani in Mauritius. That was again, the money was pumped into Bermuda, from Bermuda again into a fund formed by an Indian brokerage, IIFL, into Mauritius, and that same money was pumped into the stock market, and there was a SEBI regulator who was touting these REIT products and everything on that platform. And then come 22, in 6 months after she enters the office, the first high-profile visitor is Gautam Adani to the SEBI office. And then we know what all happened with Hindenburg and how it has gone. But the core thing which comes is, to me, what I understand largely is that there is a note of a committee report. The committee report, everybody knows Mr. Kamath and everybody was there in that committee. And that committee report note says, SEBI has been attempting to find out such contributors who have an economic interest in the FPIs. This is where it has hit a wall. It is evident that SEBI has drawn a blank in this investigation. How can you give such a report to the court? You have not filed an affidavit saying that, okay, you had this interest before 2017. These were the interests you had between 2015 and 17. There is a director of a company, Adani Group company, Anil Ahuja, who has been for 9 years.
Right, but the whole point boils down to one fact: the very fact that if at all Madhuri Buch had stakes in an offshore entity, did she make those disclosures to the government, to the court? Because she could have recused herself from the inquiry when it was happening last year, when
So
this first
she is
report came
telling.
out.
So she is telling that she has made the disclosures, but the point is that when sitting as a regulator on that chair, when she is going to investigate the whole company and the whole process, why didn't she take why didn't she file an affidavit into the court of law on that same very day when the Hindenburg report came out, where all these things were there saying that I had interest in this thing, my husband was involved, or probably before even filing a report to the court saying that we have investigated this, but here is an affidavit which I disclose that this is what I have done till now. I mean, she never talked about that. And then she is telling that I have disclosed it. So now is the job of the court to go and find every regulator and to check every regulator's background, where they had invested the money, what they had done. So court ke paas ke ab yahi kaam reh gaya hai. That is what they have to do. So that is not done. And my second point, which I have also tweeted on my Twitter handle, which I have said is, every director, be it ex or be it present on any of the Adani company's board, nominee, not nominee, key management personnel, CEO, CFO, everybody needs to be investigated by the courts and regulators. Because here, when I see Dhaval Buch and his background, I mean, there is Buch is basically a surname into a particular community in Gujaratis, and most of the people who were the CFOs in the Adani Group companies in that era were from that particular community. So was this community linkage also working? I think that also needs to be investigated. That is also a point of investigation. And that is where I see a lot of, I sense a lot of things where the funding and everything has happened. The way Dhaval's rise has been there, from that procurement process officer to basically the chief procurement officer into Hindustan Unilever, and from there to a senior advisor. He never had that experience of real estate and infra. And then his wife, promoting those products on the public platform. Regulators can't do this. You are not a brand ambassador for a particular product. And who are those anchors who had asked these questions? That is also a point of investigation, because I sense a huge nexus of these business journalists, of these regulators, of these operators, of these fund operators, of these equity brokerage firms, and I think everything now needs to be investigated. People are calling it as an economic stroke and economic attack. Nobody is doubting the fundamentals of the company. Let us talk over here one thing. Adani has a ports. There are vessels sailing in, sailing out. He has mines. He is mining the coal. He's selling the coal. They have power units. They are producing the power. They are selling it. So there is no question on that business model. The question is that if you have sold 100 crore rupee vessel to a company in India, and if you have that company registered somewhere in foreign offshore lands, and you are escaping that tax payment of that profit of 900 crores, escaping a tax payment of that 900 crore rupees profit, and pumping the same money through the shell entities in Bermuda and Mauritius into Indian stock market, that needs to be investigated.
Right. Now, let me just read out for the viewers before I go to Giri Prakash. I want to read out this statement which has come out by the Adani Group. Now, this very clearly states, I'm just going to read out, though the print is very fine. The latest allegations by Hindenburg are malicious, mischievous, and manipulative selections of publicity available information to arrive at predetermined conclusions for personal profiteering with wanton disregard for facts and the law. We completely reject these allegations against the Adani Group, which are a recycling of discredited claims that have been thoroughly investigated, proven to be baseless, and already dismissed by Honorable Supreme Court in January 2024. It is reiterated that our overseas holding structure is fully transparent, with all relevant details disclosed regularly in numerous public documents. Furthermore, Anil Ahuja was a nominee director of 3i Investment Fund in Adani Power 2007 to 2008, and later a director of Adani Enterprises until 2017. The Adani Group has absolutely no commercial relationship with the individuals or matters mentioned in this calculated, deliberate effort to malign our standing. We remain steadfastly committed to transparency and compliance with all legal and regulatory documents requirements. For a discredited short seller, under the scanner for certain violations of Indian securities laws, Hindenburg's allegations are no more than a red herring thrown by a desperate entity with total contempt for Indian laws. Now, this is written by the spokesperson of the Adani Group. Now, let me go to Giri Prakash. Giri Prakash, many people on the social media are also writing that where are the documents to claim whatever they are claiming? Can Hindenburg really prove of what they are saying? Supposing if they have to submit documents in the court of law, will they be able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, while there are arguments and counter arguments, yesterday night Hindenburg came out with this report, and then later the SEBI chief and her husband, and then Blackstone has also clarified, including that offshore fund as well, IFL fund as well. But the big question is, why is Hindenburg after Adani? Number one, why is it that they keep coming up with what they call it as evidence against perhaps between the two biggest business groups in India? Now, we all know that there were investigations, there was a SEBI probe, and there was a JPC, and all kinds of things happened. But what is more important to know, and especially for the Indian government, is that the Indian stock market represents whatever that happens there, represents whatever that is happening as far as the economy of the country is concerned. Any such allegations had to be proved to a point that no other entity like in Hindenburg or any other such company again comes up with these kind of allegations. Unfortunately, it has not been taken to that end. A Caesar's wife should be above suspicion, and therefore, if SEBI's chief is a target of this investigation, perhaps the first thing she should actually do, apart from sending out clarifications and all that, which she should have done it much earlier, is to step down from her post and allow the government to come up with any kind of investigation. Now, why are we saying that? We are saying that it is because SEBI is a regulator of the Indian stock market. She should, if by her stepping down or by creating an atmosphere where everybody realizes that she's somebody whose reputation cannot be tampered with, will send a very strong signal not only to the Indian stock market, it will send a signal across the world, because India is no longer a country where some of the richer economies in the world won't take notice. Now they are taking notice of that. Perhaps this gesture will allow the stock market to do extremely well, show that it is pretty robust, and these kind of allegations in no way will impact them. Number one. Number two, you did read out the Adani statement. It's pretty obvious they will obviously defend themselves. They have been defending themselves for a long term now. If you look at the kind of we could see that a whole lot of their companies and the way they have been going around acquiring companies, and with a lot of, there is an Adani watch which is based out of Australia. Now, why is this happening? Why is it that there is so much a focus on this group? It is not just this one. Adani should go all out to prove themselves right, saying that is whatever these allegations are completely wrong. That they have fallen short of.
All right. So it's very clear the way the things are happening. But I'll come to you now, Arunji, that what are the legal challenges now? And what can really happen from here on? Can the Supreme Court take suo moto cognizance? The very fact that last time when this committee was formed, uh, I don't know how many disclosures, and today Supriya Srinath raised a question in a press conference that did that committee make the Supreme Court aware of everything which was related to SEBI, to Adani? So those kind of claims which she was making. The point is that now can the Supreme Court take suo moto cognizance in this issue or in this expose, or will there be PILs filed by the investor activist groups? You have to unmute. Yeah.
Before I take up the point of whether what will happen in the Supreme Court or Supreme Court will do, the explanation that Adani has offered, wherein they have used the word discredited short seller. Now, is Hindenburg as discredited as Adani, which has in the post-colonial era, it has posed upon all the prime assets of India. You don't need to colonize. What is your asset? Ports, airports, the roads, and what power projects. These are your prime areas in which it has a complete monopoly. And it uses that monopoly to over-invoice and thereby overcharge the consumer, and then invest that excess money which has been brought by over-invoicing in order to manipulate the shares that are listed on the stock exchange by breaching the maximum investment allowed, which is of 75%. No promoter can hold an investment in excess of 75%. If you combine the promoter investment in India and that abroad, this investment comes to 90%. And the floating stock reduces, and due to the price manipulation, their shares are quoting at least 15 times what it should actually quote, if not more. That price earning ratio is there, which gives them a market cap to be the richest person or the third richest person in the world, which also enables them to borrow money heavily in the international market and make the international banking market also vulnerable. You will remember in the last revelation, one of the Swiss banks, it was on the verge of collapsing because of its investment in Adani, and it had stopped lending against that. Now, the second point is, what will the Supreme Court do? Supreme Court, it is very improbable that the Supreme Court will take up this matter suo moto and have a confrontation with the government. They are very much aware that the government is protecting the Adani as well as now the SEBI. They are also, and they will, the other reason is that they will not intervene, because I don't think that there will be a sharp fall in the market tomorrow, because the allegation this time is against the regulator and not the corporate entity per se. See, if it had been against Adani, I mean, maybe so even if there is a fall, it will be a marginal fall in Adani specific companies, not beyond that. So that is another reason why Supreme Court will not intervene. The third reason will be that they have burnt their finger once by intervening and finding nothing, and they don't want to see. When we were insisting that a competent and domain knowledge expertise committee should be appointed, unfortunately the CGI said that I am neither going to take names either from the government or from the people who have filed the PILs, and he went ahead and appointed his committee. As far as his understanding went, that Nandan Nilekani and Kamath and Bhatt, they in particular had domain expertise, which they absolutely did not, and did not even nominate a single chartered accountant, as far as I know, or a person with expertise on forensic accounting to that committee. In which case, they were all bound by the legal aspect and what excuses that SEBI gave in its report as to why they could not investigate. The most glaring omission of SEBI and admission was that they have hit a wall and they can't go beyond that. Now, if a regulator says that I do not know who is investing in the Indian stock market, then the regulator is not worth the salt that being a regulator, because you are supposed to know which entity is investing in the market and whether they are compliant with its laws. So, to give you an example, if Gautam Adani and his related parties hold 75% of the shares in India, and another 22%, that means 97%, 22% is held through Hawala entities of Vinod Adani, who is his brother, and hence comes within the definition of the promoter. So 97% of the shares are held by Adani, and then they pump the share value to any level, which is the reality, which is happening, then SEBI will not come to know about it. And if it comes in the public domain, then it will go to the Supreme Court and say that there are 30 entities or 25 entities, and we have found out about so much, and about this we don't know. We have hit a wall. That means there is a total regulatory failure. There is a total, I'm talking about the professional competency of SEBI, and there is a total lack of laws. They have been given powers to make rules, and they have also been given powers to issue notification, that deliberately they are allowing benami, black money, illegal money, crime money into the Indian stock market to manipulate the stock market.
And this is totally opposite to the claims made by Modi government before demonetization. Used to say that, these are so many shell companies which we have, tried to liquidate them. But coming to the political aspect, Himanshu, I'll come to you, that what is the responsibility of the ruling government, the government of the day, if there is an expose like this, whether it is Hindenburg or any other expose of this scale, if it is made, what is the responsibility of the finance ministry? What is the responsibility of the government of the day? What should it do immediately?
I mean, there lies the answer in the question. What you said is, if I would put it this way, that if this report was of any other corporate group, apart from Adani, what would have been the government's response? But obviously, they would have ordered the investigations. So I think the investigations need to be ordered now that the things are, see, instead of constantly saying this is a conspiracy against the economy of the nation, nobody is telling your economy is weak. Nobody is telling your companies are weak. They're just telling you that these are the corporate governance issues. Please clean it so that the foreign investors can invest in India, so that the foreign investors can bet on the India story. China is not happening. China collapse has happened. So I think government should 100% take this thing seriously. I mean, the regulator, today the regulator is in the dock. The biggest question is not that, there is something with the government or something. The regulator itself is in the dock. And when the regulator himself or herself is in the dock, it becomes a prime responsibility of the government to get it investigated rightly, to answer about it, instead of saying that this is a conspiracy to, derail the economy of the nation. Is your equivalent to $85? Your $1 your 85 rupees are equivalent to $1. So this narrative, that this is against the economy of the nation, that narrative is something which I cannot digest. I'm very clear. Things are out. Regulator is in the dock. Investigation needs to be done. The regulator has not given the disclosures to the court before, even going legally on that. As my learned friend from Federal said, that she should have stepped down. She should have nominated somebody else for this, saying that I had once interest in these companies.
No, but since she hasn't stepped down in the last 18 hours or 19 hours or so, is she going to step down?
So I think, yes, now the point has come that the regulator is in the dock. And not only, it's just not now about the Hindenburg or the Adani Group of companies. Look at the investments. Look at what Blackstone has invested into the India infrastructure story. The infrastructure outlay of the government for last 5 years has been 67 lakh crores, which is going to be increased 143 lakh crores in another 5 years as per the CRISIL report. And look at the state of infrastructure in India. I mean, this is also a big thing which needs to be discussed. We have talked about this. The monsoon session has got over. The budget session has got over. Nobody has questioned Nitin Gadkari about that particular department. And on here, there is a SEBI chief who is touting this REIT products and infrastructure investment products on all industry platforms. So it's just not about, about now the funds in the, see, I'll tell you the basic observation which has come from Hindenburg in one line, it sums up fantastically. What it says is, we suspect SEBI's unwillingness to take meaningful action against suspect offshore shareholders in the Adani Group may stem for chairperson Madhabi Buch's complicity in using the exact same funds used by Vinod Adani, brother of Gautam Adani, the same funds, the same company which invested into the Indian stock markets. So the regulator is in the dock. And not only for this, how it has promoted the Blackstone company, how that company got a nod for that IPO, how in the 3 months Dhaval Buch raised to that level of senior advisor in Blackstone. So there are several question marks now against the regulator. So this needs to be investigated thoroughly. It's like a Harshad Mehta scam which happened and it was investigated. Nobody said at that time that, somebody is against the stock market of India, or somebody is against the economy of India. Something was going wrong into the stock market which needs to be investigated. It was investigated. So something is going wrong in the company. It is an issue of corporate governance. It needs to be investigated. Fundamentally, we are not telling that company has gone bankrupt or something is wrong with that company.
Right. Now, I want to read out some of the pointers which are coming out from the BJP, because we don't have a BJP spokesperson here on the panel. Rajiv Chandrasekhar, who's the union minister, he has dismissed the Hindenburg report as lacking substance. That is point number one. Point number two, he's labeled it as a classic Congress-style attack filled with innuendos and lies, glued together with a few grains of truth. He asserted that the report's aim is to discredit SEBI and create chaos in the Indian markets, potentially harming the investor confidence and derailing the nation's economic growth. Now, that's a very tried and tested response from the government. A similar kind of a response we saw last year as well, which clearly goes to show, and Giri, I'll come to you, that they are still in the denial mode. There's so much of egg on the face of the government, but they seem to be, just dismissing everything. Where will it take the government from here on? You have to unmute. You'll have to unmute, Giri.
Let me read out what Hindenburg report says, and then we'll go into those 3 major allegations. Let me look at this. The Supreme Court said that SEBI had drawn a blank in its investigation into who funded Adani's offshore shareholders. If SEBI really wanted to find the offshore fund shareholders, perhaps the SEBI chairperson could have started by looking in the mirror. We find it unsurprising that SEBI was reluctant to follow a trail that may have led to its own chairperson. This is serious allegation, for God's sake. It's not like out of the blue, they're saying, okay? That's number one. There are three major allegations against the SEBI chairman. Allegation number one is about the investments in that offshore fund. Now, if you look at it, that both the couple had investments in a fund in which Adani, Mr. Gautam Adani's brother, was also an investor. This, they claim, has not led to any objective probe against the Adanis. Okay. Now, there could be circumstantial evidence here, but whether it leads to any complicity in the case of the couple, one is not sure. I might be a bit, stretch this a bit, but if you look at something called, assuming there is a crime that takes place and a person is seen around that crime place, and this leads to what you call as circumstantial evidence, and then this needs to be probed. However much you might deny, this needs to be probed, and the couple needs to come out very clean in this. All right, that's number one. Number two,
sorry to interrupt you. So, which means that the first and the foremost thing which the couple should have done, Madhuri Buch and her husband Dhaval Buch, probably should have held a press conference saying that, look, these are the things where we made the disclosures, and this is what the Hindenburg report has gone wrong. So, isn't that the thing which they should have done at least by afternoon today?
The kind of position that she holds, she should do everything possible to see that she's above suspicion. She should actually, whatever kind of investment she has, wherever she has invested, whatever that she has done, she has to disclose it first, even if she believes that it's irrelevant. All right, that is very, very important, because you're the regulator, right? You're not just anybody, and that doesn't happen. That's where Hindenburg's research report is pointing out at. If she had done all this report wouldn't have been there, right? Because she would have already disclosed it. What happens later is another matter altogether. But if you have already voluntarily disclosed it, Hindenburg could have just pointed it out and nothing beyond that, right? The point is why you didn't do it. Maybe there is a carelessness on her part. Even if you say that, yeah, she didn't actually believe that these things really need to be made public. Okay, fine. Even if you didn't do that, at least do it now. At least say that, yes, this has happened, and let me tell you what exactly are the reasons why it happened, and then say that I am going to do something which which the entire world gets to know. This is just kind of a gesture saying that, yeah, I'm going to step down and let anybody investigate. I'm willing for any kind of investigation. This is very, very important, and that has not come through. Right?
Yes.
So
I don't know, like today is a Sunday, very little chances of her being open to the inquiry. And I was just reading a tweet from the retired bureaucrat, Mr. E.S. Sarma, who says that there should be a judicial inquiry into this. Mr. Arun Agarwal, I'll come to you now. A judicial inquiry or a JPC, as what the opposition is demanding. And the opposition has come out very, very strongly on this. And because this was one issue which Rahul Gandhi has been raising like from many, many months. And he was disqualified. Mahua Moitra was disqualified only because they raised this particular issue so strongly. So, how do you think that the opposition will now take this forward? Will JPC be the answer to this big expose? You have to unmute, sir. Unmute, sir. Yeah.
For whatever it is worth, JPC is probably the only answer by which, and if you have people like Mahua Moitra, who also understands and who is a product of the capital market, there to unveil all that has happened. But there are a few other factors which have to be reckoned with. What has happened is that the SEBI chairman and her husband have used the same infrastructure of the Adanis by which money was being put into India. Very, very minimally or partially. So if they were using the same the web of companies and multi-layered companies to make their own investment, would they be interested in that web of companies being revealed? And at the very end, you find that there is Mr. and Mrs. Buch who have invested in the same route. Could not they find any other place to invest their money? This is a very legitimate this thing, and that is why they covered up. Even if I presume that they had no connection with Adani, they should also reveal whether they had any pre-appointment connection with the Adani. That is also very essential. Blackstone going hither and thither. I mean, I don't know whether their balance sheet can be accessed or somebody should access it. What is the consultancy or the advisory fee that they have paid Mr. Buch? And it is money for jam. It is to purchase.
Mr. Arun, would this be taken as some kind of a quid pro quo as well?
It is a very transparent in America. I mean, let me see if I have a locus to file a complaint with the American SEC. which I did once for a company involved in a power this thing. So file a complaint over there. Let us see whether it comes under the Foreign Corruption Act. If this type of sweetheart deal, mutual back scratching, that I pay your spouse $10 million, which is peanuts, for my billions of investment in which I want a particular framework of law. So this is nothing but a sophisticated way of corruption. Unless and until they are disclosed, Blackstone, both there and here, that we have employed the spouse. See, their lobbying is allowed, of the chairman of SEBI, which is laying down the policy, and in her enthusiasm, also acting as a marketing agent.
But Mr. Agarwal, would this kind of a thing be ever allowed in countries like America, like UK?
This is worse than a banana republic. See, the only parallel I can find is Mr. Modi promoting Jio, becoming the brand ambassador of Jio. At least he is the prime minister, he is a political figure. So he can promote, or he can have the audacity to promote somebody like that. So these are the other thing that you said about Mr. Chandrasekhar having condemned. He himself, if I am not mistaken, is a two-time independent Rajya Sabha MP. How did he become an independent Rajya Sabha MP? Should we explain? He has absolutely no credibility to comment on issues when he himself did not disclose his assets. He appeared to be a very poor man when he fought the MP election in Trivandrum. If you remember, if you recall, a person who jets around has got a stable of one had a stable of horses, he has a stable of fancy cars, and poor man, he hardly has any money. This man is commenting on this. We have seen enough of these pseudo excuse givers to believe that.
In fact, it's not only Rajiv Chandrasekhar. Sudhanshu Trivedi also has reacted, and the line and length which they have taken is very, very similar. That this report is mischievous, it's manipulative, it's an attack on the Indian stock system.
It may be all of those that they are saying, but come out with the facts and figures, na?
Right.
It may be everything, but come out with, like I have asked, why has not Blackstone revealed in their rebuttal that we only paid him over $100,000?
No, why? I mean, my point is why they're not reacting on the infrastructure things which have happened in India in last few days, and they are suddenly reacting on this. The big question is that. I mean, if everybody is coming out and reacting at it, this is some conspiracy against the economy, then what you did with the infrastructure was, I think, the worst conspiracy.
See, that
67 trillion rupees.
The physical infrastructure, budget allocation, getting, those infrastructure not being of adequate quality, that is one part of it. But I am asking, related to this scam, the Blackstone should have revealed that from 2019 till 2023, or say even 24 now, that they have a calendar year, we have paid the husband of SEBI chairman only this sum, and we appointed him as an advisor because of his so-and-so qualification, and it is only incidental that he happens to be the husband of the regulator, the regulator in chief.
I'm actually just reminded of one phrase in English that what happens if the fence eats away the crop? It's exactly a similar case. Now, Himanshu, so
who will guard the guard?
Exactly. So, Himanshu, what would you really say? I'll take the concluding comments from the three of you and then wind up the show. What would you really say to a situation like this, where the government is in a denial mode? The SEBI chief, who is in the dock, she has not come up with any kind of explanation. Probably she chooses to be in her own ivory tower. But the entire world is watching that. What kind of a watchdog does India have? Very briefly. taking the concluding comment from all of you.
Precisely now this becomes a matter. I mean, this needs to be investigated in the court of law, that why the regulator did not disclose the things. And as I said, as I'm very firm, every director, ex or present on the Adani board group companies, needs to be investigated by the courts and regulators. No doubt about that. So, I mean, I'm very, something is happening in that direction. They are talking corporate governance. Otherwise, all this commentary will continue saying that it's an economic attack against the nation and all that will continue. But nobody is targeting the fundamentals of the company. Nobody is targeting the fundamentals of India. They are saying there is an issue of corporate governance. Please clean it. And they are saying, short sellers are telling that this is not the price. This is the price. That's what they are telling. If you clean this thing, then the price can go up. That's the only point.
All right, Giri, I'll come to you now. What would you really say to how the things will move from here on? Do you think that a cogent and a clear explanation will come from the government side as far as putting out the facts are concerned, as far as some kind of an inquiry is concerned? Do you think that the Modi government will be ready for it?
If I have to take a cynical viewpoint, then nothing will happen. Life will go on for everyone around. But the proper or the right thing to do would be that even if you have probed Adani less, probe the regulator more. You're sending a very strong signal to the rest of the world that the watchdog set up by the government is above suspicion. If that doesn't happen, obviously life will go on. There will be more scams. Those who can know that this is a signal from the government that nothing is going to happen, more of these things will happen.
Right.
That's
all right. So, yeah, absolutely. So, Arun, now that this is a scary thing, your watchdog is under the scanner. The scrutiny is, the entire spotlight is on the watchdog. Now, what happens to other watchdogs in the country? Are there reasons enough now to begin a serious investigation as to the manner in which other watchdogs are operating? What if there is a conflict of element with all these regulators? Does it not open a Pandora's box now in the country? And I'm sure of this issue. Yes.
You see, regulatory failure has always been there in this country, due to which there has been this concentration of wealth. Whether it is in the financial sector, where the RBI has failed to regulate and which has led to the violation of 12 lakh crores of non-performing assets. And when you had a strict regulator like Raghu Ram Rajan, he was ousted and you brought in a very friendly regulator. So regulatory failure is nothing new, but that happening in the stock market is very serious. In fact, after talking to you and generating the ideas, I'm very seriously thinking of writing to the Indian senators like Ramaswamy over there, or even Madam Kamala Harris, that the manner in which they are playing around you see what element of the investment is coming over here. These dubious. So they should either, Blackstone should either disclose on its own, or should be made to disclose the amount paid to the husband of the SEBI chairman. That is one thing. And there are more chances of getting some of this conflict of interest straightened out in the foreign country rather than in India. In India, conflict of interest is very normal. I mean, it is considered cozy. People, I mean, capital and power, they have always mixed together. We have seen it when Sahara was ruling the roost. We see it in a wedding. We see it all the time. And we also see it in the parliament when people like Chandrasekhar.
Sorry to interrupt you. One quick retort I wanted from Giri Prakash, because Aam Aadmi Party's Sanjay Singh, he had said that, the parliament was adjourned sine die due to the government's foreknowledge of the Hindenburg report release. Now, is that an accusation to be believed really? Because and then after this, I will share what Sudhanshu Trivedi has just said. Yes, Giri.
Obviously, a lot of 2 and 2 will be put together now. A lot of conclusions will be drawn, and that's why I said that some kind of a gesture from the regulator should actually happen. It's not about you talked about the weekends kind of thing, but that's not the issue. The issue is that you're a regulator 24/7, right?
Absolutely.
The first thing that you should have done is to step down and say, let us go ahead and see what exactly is the truth. Now, these things will fly around a lot. There'll be some other one, some other kind of allegation that will come to the table. This gesture is very, very important. When a railway accident happens, opposition demands that the railway minister should resign, right? And there have been occasions when actually some of these things have happened, right? Now, nobody's talking about it. And for me, this is shocking.
Absolutely. And before I wind up the show, I just want to read out what Sudhanshu Trivedi, the BJP leader, has said. He's pointed out that many critical reports originating from abroad are often released just before or during the parliament sessions, implying a coordinated effort. He further questioned the timing of the report's release, suggesting that opposition leaders were aware of its impending publication when parliament was set to convene. So, on this particular reaction, I will try and end the program. But viewers' feedback would be awaited because it's a huge expose which has just happened. Yes, Arunji, you want to say something?
No, they were also saying that the parliament was prematurely adjourned because they were going to move a no confidence motion against the vice president, the speaker, on which the thing was very agitated. One thing may be said that Hindenburg may have decided to release the report one day before the parliament was supposed to end. But they are not the type who will leak their report to the government, or anybody could say that they had a foreknowledge. In fact, Reliance was more nervous, and other corporates were nervous that this Hindenburg may be revealing their skullduggery and their skeletons in the cupboard. In fact, the entire corporate, do number ka jo corporate, they were all on their tenterhooks last evening.
You're 100% right. You're 100% right. But 2-3 very, very important questions through this expose. That why is Madhuri Buch, why did she not recuse herself when this inquiry was on last year? Did she make those disclosures?
How could you think?
Questions.
You see, when you are manipulating on this level, do you ever expect that you will get caught in the future so that you will make the disclosure in the present? So when you get caught, then you deny. That is exactly what has happened. The fundamental question is that she is savvy enough to know that I should be out of this investment before I am appointed as a member of the of SEBI. So she gets out within a week.
This is just as to what happens. I'm sure a lot of developments will happen in the coming days. Lots of reactions will be coming. And as I just read out Mr. E.S. Sarma's tweet where he said that there should be a judicial inquiry. Congress held a press conference saying that there should be a JPC, and they have also appealed to the Supreme Court that there should be a suo moto cognizance of this matter. So we'll have to wait and watch. Tomorrow, Monday being the market day, in the morning, all eyes would be as to what happens in the stock market. That's going to be something very, very interesting. Thank you so much, Himanshu Bayani, Arun Agarwal, Giri Prakash. Thank you so much for joining. And one appeal to the viewers who are watching this discussion, subscribe to our channel, send us a feedback, and stay tuned to the Federal. Thank you.
The Federal and Velevin Hypermarket jointly present the Thuthukudi Marathon 2024 to raise awareness on drug abuse. The event is co-presented by Edison Cardio Care Center, Tiruchendur, powered by L. Anand Jewelry and St. Mother Teresa Engineering College, Thuthukudi.